security. So when you think about security, what you think about? It's all about the national interest. So when you think about the national interest, will people want to negotiate their national interest? Will people want to negotiate their sovereignty? I think that's another point that you have to consider also. So when you play about the model, this is a model, quote unquote model United Nations. So you have to, I know that you want to win the prize. I know you want to win the award as the best delegate. I mean, I was in your positions. I was a member of his office for the whole 4 years of my life, undergraduate years. And I was also a part of the JMAN committee. Uh, I was also a part in the past. There was like Indonesia, MUN also. I was not the best delegate, but I was a part of it. But then after joining a lot of Model United Nations, I started to realize what we are aiming in the Model United Nations. Are we just trying to win the prize? I even joined the Harvard National Model United Nations. But that's, I think, the turning point. Because I saw that, oh, these people just trying to win the prize. They are not trying to practice the real Model United Nations. If you are trying to practice the Model United Nations, what you have to think about your country's stance. You have to clearly represent your country's stance. So that's one thing that you have to note. And if that includes that you have to just protect your national interests, or you have to protect what this country believes, that's what you have to do. You cannot change your country's stance. Because the judgment, it will be also on how you already understand the scenario and how you understand what is the actual national interest. So if you ask me again, then do you believe the modern United Nations? I'm not sure how many of you have already listened or like catch up with the like development of that the United Nations is going to be reformed. There are a lot of like notions that yes, we have to reform the United Nations, including if you are talking about security, is the UNSC is going to be reformed. Do you believe that the UNSC can be reformed? With the current position of the great power inside the UNSC, will they agree for the UNSC to get another additional positions for another country to be represented in the UNSC, for instance? Like I was in India, like in March, I was there for weeks. Then the whole conversations about this, about that, and that at that time was that yes, a lot of countries trying to propose India's to secure positions in the UNSC. Will it be easy for India, the quote-unquote so-called the rising power in the region, to secure a UNSC positions? There should be a lot of questions about it, and whether then obviously a lot of like all the UNSC members, they will agree about the India's positions. There will be a lot of debates about it. And we are talking about, if you are, some of you maybe international relations students, then you will talk about, do you understand what is Global South? Is the Bandung Declaration still relevant to what we are talking about the Global South itself? When I was in India, I asked the Minister of External Affairs, or in Indonesia, we know it as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I asked him, do you think that we need another Bandung Declarations? It's already like, it's been ages since the Bandung Declarations. Do we need to just unite again, and do we need just to sit together and talk about how we are going to face these situations, or just another maybe gathering of the alumni of the Bandung Declarations? And then he said, I don't think that another Bandung Declaration is important because the situation has changed. The development has changed. And how you see the gesture of trying to show empathy toward the Global South is how do you help the others. Then is the gesture is enough to show the solidarity between the Global South? That's for you to think about as well. Is it, so when we are talking about United Nations, then why suddenly there is also a term of the Global South? Maybe because we are not well represented in the United Nations. Because while we are talking about the Global South, we are trying to campaign for our rights. We are trying to campaign for like our positions because we want to give a leverage for us as the quote unquote global south. Even if you ask me what are the scope global south, I'm not really sure. Even if you are talking about like if you are IR student, you are talking about the Indo-Pacific. Can you describe what is Indo-Pacific? Even for countries like Japan and India, or any other countries, they have different opinions and they have different scope of what is Indo-Pacific. So that's the problem. The problem of definition is very crucial because also that's how you are going to think about what we have to do and who we should be engaged. We should engage. I think that's you have to consider if you are talking about. Then there is why there is a global south. There is like another term that's trying to just campaign for our interests. Then what the UN has been done for so far. Yeah.
Thank you. You may stand still if you want. Just a context. Mexico is also one of the member of MICTA. Mexico, Indonesia, South Korea, Republic of Korea, sorry, Turkey, and Australia. MICTA is one of the organizations that was established as a multilateral, or may I say, minilateral platform in which we thank Mexico for the active chairship whenever Mexico was presiding over MICTA. MICTA itself is a group of developing countries in the global south, but they're organizing themselves because they cannot trust the UN, if I may borrow your term. So do you think that the presence of those minilateral organizations like MICTA or maybe G20 or maybe BRICS, are those productive or not for Indonesian foreign policy in this case, to navigate the multilateral order that is very fragmented and not very trustworthy right now? Thank you.
So now we are talking about multilateralism, minilateralism, or maybe bilateral, trilateral. So we are talking about that. Even when you brought up like some of the MICTA and also the other cases, like maybe BRICS, that they're trying to represent the global south. Now we also have the case of like Board of Peace. Who created the Board of Peace? They are even the strongest members of the UNSC, the United States. So is the United States like they are not satisfied with the current UN establishment? Are they not satisfied with the current establishment of the multilateralisms? That's what you have to think about as well. Why they decided to pursue the Board of Peace. And then obviously, yeah, we have because we are not satisfied. There are a lot of noises in the United Nations. And then even for Indonesia, foreign policy, that's another question because I always tell my students as well, when you talk about the foreign policy, you have also to consider about the domestic politics and the conditions in Indonesia or the domestic politics in any other countries when you want to talk about the foreign policy, like everywhere. So that's where you have to start to think about. Then when we talk about bebas aktif or the so-called free and active foreign policy in Indonesia, who to define the free and active foreign policy? Is it Muhammad Hatta or is it every president, or is it the like Minister of Foreign Affairs? Even if you all follow the current developments and we have like changings, obviously the backgrounds of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and then how the MOFA is working as well. You will see another point of how we're trying to define the free and active. Or the free and active in the case of Indonesia. For now, maybe they are trying to work on more the president or the leaders of the more personalistic approach of like foreign policy. Is it justified to have a more personalistic foreign policy? To some extent, it's yes. Because it's still foreign policy. At the end, the one who interprets the foreign policy or the so-called grand strategy of a country is the leader of the policymakers of a country. Then those who are trying to execute it, it is also for the policymakers to do it. Therefore, Indonesia, what the UN can do, or maybe what the Indonesia can do at the UN. Okay, Indonesia in ASEAN, we are the so-called leaders in ASEAN. But how about the UN? I think it also depends on the willingness of the policymaker, of the willingness of the leaderships on how they want to play a part at the United Nations. I mean, we also have our representative working at the United Nations. One of my friends, she is now like our official representative for Indonesia at the United Nations. She's working really hard, but obviously there are a lot of changes and developments, and also about the stances. And if you are talking about the current condition, obviously now the current conditions, and then also the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the presidents, maybe they are the same voice, they have the same voices, or maybe the Minister of Foreign Affairs, they're not necessarily the one, they are the policy planners, but they are also the one who execute the policy done by the president. So if we are talking about bebas and active and what Indonesia can do, I think it also depends on the leadership. So what the leaders want to do. If you talk about, people keep comparing sometimes the previous president and the current president. Like the previous president, people keep saying that previous president is more domestic oriented, and now the current president is more foreign policy oriented or more internationalized or something. Yeah, it's different. It's totally different approach on how we see the development and how we see our foreign policies going as well, and how free and active. For some people, like Indonesia is agreeing to Board of Peace say that no, we are no longer free and active because we are now siding with one of the great powers. There will be a lot of people question that. But then at the same time, if you think about it, Indonesia have joined a lot of like other multilateralism like framework. Indonesia joined BRICS. So does it mean that Indonesia is siding with China and India? I think it's a very flexible term, and free and active doesn't really mean neutral. So it really depends on how the leaders trying to interpret free and active and how they are trying to exercise the free and active. It is whether through joining the policy framework, or is it also through the United Nations if they are willing to do with the United Nations.
So is there any question from this side? Any question? Anyone want to ask something about the UN or criticize the UN? Anyone? Anyone from international school or Jaksel school or whatever? Any questions? Please raise your hand. We are opening the floor. Okay. This side, you guys need to work more. Okay, I'm going to approach this side first. So what's your question? Make it succinct. Don't create the whole speech here.
So referring to your, okay.
What's your name?
So my name is Fabio and I'm from Paradisa Cendekia. And my question is regarding the first thing you said about the UN, about maybe UNSC, right? Now there is a lot like problems in our world, right? And the UNSC is always getting vetoed on every draft resolution that is right now making an impact on maybe the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Should we be worried about like the amount of vetoes there are in UNSC that could possibly create like such endearment to the world?
So maybe you can keep the question. One question from there. Any more question from that side? Maybe. Who? Any question? No? Then from this side, who was raising the hand? Before you? Okay, maybe you. And then him. Just a short one.
Right. So you noted regarding, okay. Hi, my name is Colin Pearson. I'm the chair for ICAO, one of them at least. I'm from the University of Pajajaran. And I do have a question regarding the statement again on UNSC, but specifically on the recent joint statement with India and Australia regarding the expansion, of course, of P5 members to include India. I heard just now you stated that, and I want to ask from your experience, how are talks going right now? Because, of course, we do know that the P5 members are encoded within the UN charters, and that is really hard to amend. So how does India and Australia, as you know, are willing to go about this? Thank you.
I cannot comment on that question. I am the government of Indonesia, so I will leave that to the academia. Just the last question from who was raising. Can we have a gender balance? Or maybe you tell your question to her and then she will be asking it. Okay. What's your question?
Okay, my name is Adnan. I'm from ECOSOC. My question is quite similar. It's about lab school. My question is about, again, veto power.
is there certain conditions if maybe veto power is to not be exercised? Because again, I want to echo what they said. Veto power has been used to, veto resolutions like the resolutions on Gaza and Ukraine.
Thank you. So with all the three questions from the three Sigma people there, now I will yield the floor to you. The first question was concerning about, is it concerning regarding the proliferation of the existing vetoes that has been done? And then second, the talks to onboard India, how maybe what's the current update if you have it, right? Yes. So please, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the first and the third question is kind of related to each other about the veto. Who are in this? Anyone in UNSC? Anyone in UNSC?
Any dissect council here?
Is there
For
any
UNSC?
UNSC here?
Got the UNSC? No UNSC, I think.
I think they are there. There are some in the UNSC.
You guys UNSC council? Are
Okay.
you guys preparing to veto your draft resolution?
If I were you, I will veto. If I were you, I will veto the resolutions, everything that is against your national interests. Because of what? Because of the great power. I mean, we are talking about the United Nations. Obviously, we have to think about also how it works, how the funding, the financials, and everything. If there is no great power, maybe it will be hard for them to run as well. And also, if there is no great power, the problem with the United Nations, if there are no great powers and there are no veto power, if you learn about the history, is also that there are no countries that can give, like, for instance, economic sanction to the country who did something wrong, for instance. Then what's the point if you are just saying something then without any consequences for those countries that are doing, like, maybe committing crimes or committing war to the others? But the problem is with the question is that how about the countries that are doing the war crimes, for instance? Are we going to put them like to justice, put them to trial? That's a hard question. That's hard to do for us. That's why maybe if you are talking whether the veto is problematic, yeah, maybe, yeah, to some extent, how can we bring those countries that have veto power to justice if they do something wrong? That's a hard question about the veto power. And also, if you are talking about Gaza, yeah, I mean, if you were Donald Trump, don't say Donald Trump. If you were Joe Biden, for instance, will you exercise your veto power? Think so, right? Yeah. So it's all about the national interest. It's all about the pattern. There are more things to delve into why they are, for instance, protecting the other countries and why they are not protecting these countries. There are more interests that you have to learn about. If you are talking, okay, for the sake of humanity, for the sake of human rights, obviously those veto power will not exist. But if you are talking about the national interest and all the other interests, economic interests, for instance, or maybe other interests that you can say about, yes, veto power will exist. National interest will exist. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that, okay, we want something that is very ideal for our family, for our friends in Gaza. We want to bring justice to them. We want to bring peace to them. I live in Kyoto, for instance. I live in Kyoto. When I was there 4.5 years, and then after what's happening in Palestine and Gaza, every weekend we have a rally in Kyoto. Every weekend. Do you still see any rally in Indonesia now?
Kamisan.
Kamisan, right? That's one of the case. Then in Kyoto, for instance, in Palestine, the case of Palestine, do we still see like weekly? Obviously, we still have some events. We still show our solidarity. But it's interesting case because in Japan, most of the people, they don't have like a strong political stance. But what I saw from these people, they are campaigning on the rally, and every single week was also mostly, if from the Japanese side, are those older people. Why they were going to the street every single week? Because of what they experienced in the past. What they experienced from what happening in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They do not want to see the others to experience what they had in the past. This kind of solidarity obviously is still needed to show that there are still people who cares about what's going on and to show the solidarity. And in Kyoto, if you know Kyoto, Kyoto is a very touristy country. Touristy place. Touristy city is in Japan. So when you do a rally in Japan, when you do just trying to compare free and free Palestine like every single week, you will see not only people who support it, but we also got some people who were against us, and they're trying to disrupt our rally. That's a very interesting point because most of them obviously because they were tourists, so we will see a lot of different opinions. But no, the rally was still happening. It's every single week. So if you want to show the solidarity, it's still important. But if you are talking about the multilateralism in the sense of, are we going to show the solidarity in the sense of the UN? Maybe not the UNSC. They will do something for people in Gaza. Maybe if the UN, for instance, some of the body in the UN didn't exist, maybe intervention will be harder. Intervention to get into Gaza, the intervention to get into Palestine maybe will be harder if you don't have the access. So I think that's one of the leverage of the United Nations. If you still have the access, even though of what's happening, I think that's one of the points.
We do have the toolkits, chapter 5, chapter 7, the R2P and such, the sanction. But again, it's about whether the countries are willing to do so. When you are having a relationship, there's a saying, if he won, he will, he could. If she wants, she will, she could. That's the same for the countries. If the country really want to do it, then they could. So maybe just before I move to the last,
I think I haven't answered the questions about India. Was it about the defense cooperation?
the president of the UN Security Council recently issued a joint statement.
What?
Yeah, so my question was regarding the recent joint statement between India and Australia and on the expansion of the P5 to include India, as you've stated before. And I want to ask specifically, what roadblocks do you see there and that you've heard specifically?
Obvious sentiment from one of the P5 member. And I don't know how, when I was in India, one of the things, there was a few people from the American government. What I still remember clearly from the statement of these people from the US government is that one of them said that we will not let what's happening to China to happen to India. So can you guess so they will not let India to rise as what China rise today. So that's one of the sentiment from the current government. And even at that time in India, interestingly, there are only a few people from the US. And one of the US, one of the people from the US said that you can see like who are the representative in India in here right now. We don't see a lot of Americans. What we see is mostly Europeans. So if you see mostly Europeans, my interpretation is that like India is trying to be more lenient towards the European because maybe they don't trust the US to help them. So why would you bother to ask the US to help you if you can ask the Europeans who are more like lenient toward them and more kind to them? And then maybe we also talk about China. Then China and India, it was very hard for me to find people from China when I attended the conference in India. It was only one. And then I talked to these people, to the one from China. So why I only saw a few people from China? And she said it was very hard for us to get a visa to enter India. It's very close, and obviously because they have this bordering because of conflicts, the territorial conflicts, the escalations of like tense between them, I think is also quite high. Was also quite high. And it was easier for me to find someone from Taiwan. And I asked also the organizer, so why I didn't see people from China coming this event. And then the person said that, I'd rather people from Taiwan I can listen to what are their thoughts, to what they say. But in the sense that we can see that there are still a lot of tensions going on between like India and China. So if you are talking about whether India is going to have the UNSC positions, it really depends on whether or not the others want to accept it as well. And what's the justification of like having India? Is it only because they are rising power, or is it only to have like the quote unquote Asian countries, addition countries to be in the UNSC? If it's just the justifications, then maybe it will be hard for us.
Thank you. And I think adding more countries is not really equivalent to a better world order. So maybe there is some things that we can discuss further about the addition of a new of the permanent seat within the UN Security Council. But, you know, again, all of these are very intertwined with the norms, with the values that the United Nations is currently embracing. And sometimes for countries, it's comfortable for them to maintain the status quo rather than doing something new, just because simply we don't want to trigger the Pandora box that we might not be ready to anticipate or mitigate. Maybe by the addition of India or any other country, I don't want to name the country, maybe it will get worse, maybe it will get better, who knows? But again, the situation is, as long as international law is still respected, and as long as the mechanisms of international law still have the final say, that's the ideal environment for international relations to take place. So I think just want to get one question from here, two questions, maybe one from female and one from male. Any questions from this side? Anyone want to get Best Delegate Award? If you raise your hand, you'll get Best Delegate Award. Amen. I'm pretty much faithful to my God, so that's why I think my prayer will work. Any question here? One female, one male? Or, yeah, please introduce your name and keep it short, and your school and your council. Are you UNSC?
Hi everyone, I'm Marcelino and I'm from Sichi Secondary School. And I think my question is quite simple. Since this discussion is flowing on the narrative of the global powers within UNSC, how do we prevent the UNSC in particular or the UN from falling off like the LON? That's it. Yeah, League of Nations.
Any question? Any more question? One from female, preferably. You want to ask a question? I see you're very enthusiastic. The ladies here, you have any question? But do you want to give a question? Oh, he wants to give a question.
Hi, my name is Kelsey and I'm from SMA Francis and I'm going to be joining WHO. So my question right now is actually because we're Indonesia and we're growing as a country, as a superpower. Perhaps what is the role for Indonesia in the global situation of this issue right now?
Thank you. What is the role of Indonesia in the current global situation? Are we in a good relationship with the UN? Are we faithful, or are we in a situationship with the UN? That's even more sad. But yeah, there are two questions. First of all, revolve around how to prevent the UN from falling apart, and you know, just like the destiny of the League of Nations, but and then this about Indonesia's foreign policy, how do we situate ourselves within the global order? And I think the last segment will be about the role of diplomacy. I mean, of course, obviously, you might argue that multilateralism may not work every time. Bilateralism may work, or regionalism could work better than multilateralism. But at the end of the day, all of those operate with through a thing called diplomacy. So how do we make sure that diplomacy is still the essence of it? And then those two questions. So I think that's all about. Thank you.
Okay, so the first question is, how do we prevent the UN from falling apart? I don't think it will fall apart. I don't think it will fall apart. It's an establishment that has been dead for like for so long, and I don't think it will fall apart because there are a lot of interest as well to just keep it. Yeah, obviously, okay, we know that the United Nations under the Trump administration, they have a lot of things to say and also a lot of changes that are going on. Like they can just abolish the US aid and everything. But to abolish the so-called United Nations, it will be difficult. It's not falling apart in the sense that it will be just I don't know, like disbanded or something. I don't think it will happen like what the League of Nations happened. But what's going to happen is probably, yeah, what we are seeing now. I think is see a very strange development. It's we have to see the pattern. So if it's not really a strange development that is happening right now, what's going on is what's happening, and with a lot of national interest, with a lot of like they say there may be vetoes. So yeah, it's just what's happening and still will be going on. So how do we prevent it? How do you play your role as a young people still believing in the United Nations? If you still if you still believe in the United Nations, then yeah, I mean there are a lot of programs and a lot of things to do with the United Nations. I don't say that the United Nations doesn't work. Obviously, they have a lot of contributions. If we are talking about security, it will be another matters. But then, if we still believe in the United Nations and how we can try to like interventions and also how trying to settle peace or trying to be meditate like to mediate between countries. I think the United Nations they to some extent they are still play role on that context, and we want United Nations to still play the role on that. And then yeah, we have to talk more about how we are going to like do the peace building and everything. I think that's how it still works to some extent. But if you are talking, oh, I know that you will just ask again about the Palestine. You are going to ask again about the border peace. It's a very complicated matter that cannot be answered by in only like this short sessions. But if you are talking about what the alternative can the UN do and what the UN can offer, that's what I can say. It's hard to do the intervention to a country where you don't have like a lot of things to say, or you have, I mean, let's say that you want to help the other country. Will you just go there or just simply go there, especially in the context of peace building? It will be hard unless you have a certain like very strong like diplomacy agreement or something. But then if you go through the United Nations, maybe it will just still go through if you can help to some extent. So further intervention and longer like debates about how you should intervene, maybe it will be not taking so long. But if you go through the United Nations, they already have the mechanism where you can intervene still under the guidelines or still under the rules that already agreed upon. So that's how we can prevent the United Nations to fall apart, because if you still believe with what the mechanism that's still going on, or maybe because instead of creating a new one, it will be easier for you to just try to comment or advising something to make it better. Because creating a new one, it will take a lot of times and a lot of like debates as well. I mean, reform, a UN reform, it will be another hard task to do. But if you're starting from small, maybe you can do something.
And the second question was about how Indonesia should position. What are the do's and don'ts when Indonesia is positioning themselves?
Okay, so now a lot of people say that, okay, the Indonesia is a middle power. Do you believe in the word middle power? How do you define middle power? For me, I don't know how to define middle power. Because if you say middle power, then you will put, for instance, there are people that would put Indonesia, then put Japan in the same context of the middle power. It's very complicated to say that, okay, we are in the same bracket. We are in the same category. How do we define it? It is the same as we say the global south. How do we define the global south? And then how do we define the middle power? Obviously, when we talk about the middle power, is that we want to get in a position where we have more leverage to the others. But I think for me, someone who study about security, our leverage is also our geographical location. Our very own leverage is our own geographical locations. If you see what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, the next place that they are keep talking about is where? The Strait of Malacca.
Agree.
Yeah, that's where we have a very strategic positions. if something happening to Indonesia, if Indonesia is angry, for instance, and if Indonesia suddenly, obviously, we will not close our strait. That's what some people jokes about. But we obviously will not close our strait. But if something happening, not only the Strait of Malacca, but we are also talking about the Lombok Strait, for instance. If something is happening, the supply chains that's happening globally will be disrupted. So everyone, why people, for me, I think another leverage for Indonesia, why those countries trying to approach Indonesia is also because our strategic locations. We are very strategic. And also in the context of ASEAN, ASEAN is also very strategic. And Indonesia is believed as this quote unquote the leader of ASEAN. For the agenda setting, why a lot of countries are trying to approach Indonesia because they believe Indonesia can help the agenda setting in ASEAN. If you still believe in ASEAN. If ASEAN still works. But I think ASEAN is also a leverage. If you say the global south has a leverage as it terms that to the other countries that is more powerful, then I think ASEAN is also have its own leverage for the other country that has more power. So yeah, I think if you say about how we position our like diplomacy, we already know that we have our own leverage. How we position is also to say that we are the leader in the regions, but how should we play a more active role in the regions? That will be the questions. Are the current administration or the next administration, previous administrations, they still want to play a more active role in the region? How do we play a more active role? So what's happening in ASEAN, in the region? What's happening in Myanmar? What are we going to do with that? What's happening in Thailand and Cambodia? Are we going to be more active in trying to settle peace there? But then why during the ASEAN summit, it was Trump who was trying to show that, yes, I'm the peacemaker here. Wouldn't it have better if there are more countries from the regions? Okay, last year, Malaysia was trying to initiate it. But then why it was not the other countries from Southeast Asia that was present during the signatures of like the peace like agreement? I think that's how we should play a more active role. And I mean, in the past, we have more, like from the MOFA also have been playing a very active role. And I think we have to still be consistent in doing that. Yeah.
So I just want to get a sense here. I will act as a chair now. Those who votes in favor to still trust multilateralism, I'm not saying the UN, but the way of doing business called multilateralism. Those who are voting in favor, please raise your placards, your hands high and firm. Those who still trust multilateralism, please raise your hands high and firm. Okay, couple of it. Okay, this is not even 50% plus one majority. Lower your hands. Those who are against, please raise your placards, your hands, high and firm. I'm now your chair, I'm the chair of this whole JMUN, the big council. So those who are against multilateralism, raise your hands high and firm. A few. From this side, a few also. Those who abstain, please. If you are present and voting, you cannot abstain. Remember the ROP. Those who abstain, okay. Those who don't care, raise your hand. I think some people are still like deciding based on their feelings, yeah? This will be my last point about rationality. Whether countries are rational, but in terms of realism, I think none of them are rational. Because people, countries, when they are racing towards, balance of power, it will involve proliferation. And when we say proliferation, it also involves the implications through increasing armaments, increasing distrust, things like that. I haven't read the book by Mark Schimmer again, but I forgot the whole book anyways, because it's been a long time ago. Just, you can answer this short, but how to position Indonesia as a credible middle power, but with rational thinking, not a reactive or impulsive thinking in our foreign policy. Without blaming any certain stakeholders within the government, because I'm the government myself. So yeah, please.
I mean, if you ask me about how are we going to play roles at the international world, I will always say I still trust our friends in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Because of what? Because they are the one who are trained for doing their job. So what we have to do to play an active role or to be more like giving more contributions to the international world or to the international order is to trust our friends at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Is to trust them to create something, to lead the policy, not only as the executor of the policy. So that's why I always say and keep saying that okay, policymakers, they have different opinions, they have different politicians. I will not say policymakers. The politicians, they will have different opinions, will have different stands, they have different interests. But then if you are talking about the Minister of Foreign Affairs, they have already dealt with a lot of cases. They have already dealt with a lot of people. They have also handled a lot of people. I think that's also what we can learn from that. They know better of what to do and how to be more active. And also in the case of the region, they also have more experience to interact with a lot of people from different countries. So I think we have to be more MOFA-centered foreign policy.
MOFA Center Foreign Policy. So do not forget the foreign ministry.
Yeah, so I think that's
Okay.
what I am trying to say about like MOFA Center Foreign Policy. So we have a lot of credible diplomats. If you want to be diplomats, you will went through a lot of process when you learn during your posting and during your interaction with people. Even though I'm a security people, but then I also love to talk to people. I also love to learn from the people. And I think when, especially now, we have more people, Indonesian people overseas, for instance. We have more people overseas that we have to protect as well. So that's what we learn about how to interact with people and what we have to do and how we are going to protect them. So once again, I think it's more centered foreign policy. Yeah.
As someone who's not a foreign policy diplomat, but I'm a development diplomat because my vice minister told me that we are all dealing with development issues and we're all development diplomats at the end of the day. I concur. We need to rely on the professional bureaucracy and the system that has been built based on merit. And I totally concur with that. Now to close the session, can everyone pay attention? To close the session, as the chair of the JMUN talk show, I would like, without any co-chair, without any rapporteur and MUN coordinated, please raise your hand if you vote yes that you trust the United Nations. Please raise your hands. If you trust the UN. High and firm. High and firm. Where's this side? Raise your hands. Raise your hands or you will not get any word. You will be verbal commendation later. Come on. Don't jinx it. Come on. Okay. Those who didn't trust the UN, please raise your placards high and firm. Raise your hands high and firm. Sorry. The script is embedded in my brain.
This often happens after I give lectures. So yeah, I pardon for all the German committees. So that's what will happen. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. I will now end with 3 conclusions. First, we must agree that for foreign policy to thrive, it must not be sidelined, and we must rely in the very professional nature of our foreign policy management. So Indonesia will be able to navigate the world order that is very fragmented, very weird, or if I may call it myth. And then second of all, it is embedded in our foreign policy planning, but our midterm, long-term development plan document has outlined Indonesia's willingness to be a global player. But we cannot be a global player if there is no stage for us to be a player. Again, I repeat, Indonesia cannot be a global player if there is no global stage for us to play with to begin. So that's why we need to start trusting and promoting multilateralism so that the very global stage that we have in the UN, ASEAN, all of those remain credible. And the third conclusion that to close with is, before you come to the Council Committee session room tomorrow, reflect what your country miss right now. What what are the things that your country, that you as a country really wish to happen right now. That way you can understand the way you build your recommendations, your arguments in the committee session. But most importantly, because for Indonesia, we know our problem, we know the solutions, but whether we have the ownership to those solutions and to tackle those problems, that's what remain in question. So I think that's a round of applause, Tumba Chawla. And please, everyone, round of applause once again for her extraordinary remarks. Any one short statement, closing statement, one word.
I mean, I don't mean to change your view on the United Nations. You can believe what you believe, and you can believe on multilateralism, or you try to believe only on like bilateral or trilateral. That is, it depends on you. Depends on you. But now, if you are playing the model United Nations, please remind again that you have to play what the interest of your country, what your country
Yes.
says about this.
Not based on ChatGPT advice.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
Please.
I am not against the use of AI, but please be,
Yes.
be critical when you use
Critical.
AI. When you use AI, be critical, and should know the structures. Yeah.
Thank you, Mbak. With that, I close this talk show. Round of applause to the whole session, guys, once again. And please keep flaming and do not lose your faith. Thank you very much. My name is Samuel Jose, signing out. Thank you. I yield back to our Abang None, please. Which Abang None are you? Jaksel? Jakut? Jakbar. Oh yeah, I forgot this is Jakbar. Eh?
Thank you so much to our incredible moderator and speaker for such an enriching and deeply intellectual discussion. Now, before our esteemed speaker and moderator leave the area, we kindly request you to stand up and move forward again for a brief photo session.
We also invite Flika Miracle Simarmata as the Secretary General to join us on stage, bringing a token of appreciation from Jakarta MUN.
All right. So first, please allow me to give a bit of direction. The first one is for Mr. Samuel Jose as well as Ms. Flika Miracle. Very nice. And for the second for the session would be with Ms. Chawla Renita as well as Ms. Flika Miracle, with the both of you.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Very nice.
Excellent.
All right. And lastly, we kindly request Ms. Chawla Renita as well as Mr. Samuel Jose to take pictures for the three of you.
3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay,
Thanks so much to our wonderful panelists and moderator. You may now kindly step down from the stage.
Okay, I want to say thank you very much to our speaker, Mrs. Chawla and Mr. Hino, for the discussion.
Right. Now, Bang, we've talked about diplomacy, global issues, and the world beyond our borders. But before we continue, how about we take a little bit of time to know what is going on around us? I'm talking about this particular city. I'm talking about Jakarta.
Okay, because of course, Non-Lila, Jakarta isn't just a place where JMUN happens. It has its own stories, history, and of course, its people.
And today, we're bringing all of that a little bit closer to us. And of course, it is thanks to the help of Museum Mandiri as well as Circle 8 Bang.
So delegates, get ready to explore, create, and connect because our cultural fair is coming up next.
Yes, I'm sure everybody is very excited for this particular part, which we will reveal very soon. And we hope everyone has gained meaningful perspective from today's talk show. And now please get ready as we move on to the next segment of our program.
Ladies and gentlemen, now that our conference is officially open, let us look at the beautiful city that our bring us together. Jakarta, a melting pot of rich tradition, modern rights, and diverse voice. We present to you a cultural fair.
Exactly, Bang. So, delegates, the cultural fair will consist of two exciting activities. The first is Jakarta Mosaic, where we will create a collective representation of what Jakarta means to all of us. And secondly, I'm sure everybody is very excited for this one, Bang. It's a museum tour where you will get the chance to explore and discover more about Jakarta's history as well as heritage.
To make sure delegates and everyone gets to experience both activities, the cultural fair will be conducted in two sessions. So everyone will have the opportunity to participate in both the Jakarta Mosaic and the museum tour.
Yes, so for session one, we will divide the room into two groups based on your sitting positions.
Okay, so our for those who seated on the right side of the stage, we kindly ask you to follow our committee members and form a line outside the hall. You will be guided to your museum tour.
Yes, meanwhile, for those seated on the left side of the stage, please follow our committee members and make your way to the round tables located right beside of you. This is where you will participate in the Jakarta Mosaic.
Okay, delegates, please follow the instruction and guidance from our committee members throughout the mobilization. To keep everything running smoothly, we kindly ask everyone to move calmly and stay with your assigned group.
Yes, and just a kindly reminders, delegate, you can leave your bags on your seats because you won't be needing them. Once again, delegates, you could kindly leave your bags on your seat because you won't be needing them in the museum tour.
Okay, delegates, once again, please follow our committee members and remain your assigned activity. Thank you.
For the group on this side, please take your seat and you can take it up from that side first. So you can follow the committee members and we can start by filling from the right side of the building first. Thank you. So I think Bang Arden, just to give a little bit of heads up, this session it's about Jakarta Mosaic, where you will write down what you feel about Jakarta, what you feel about MUN, as well as your hopes and dreams. And of course, we will be reminding about this again. Thank you so much. And we will see you on the Jakarta Mosaic.